So, just looking at the calendar and putting that stuff out.
So last question for me is, obviously you've got a good organization. You wouldn't be able to make it where you are without it. So how are you finding the best players to join your team?
Dude, it's like how you find a great spouse, You become what you want to attract, right? If you want loyal people on your team, you got to be obsessively loyal. If you want people with a good attitude, you got to have a good attitude, And so, are you going live?
I'm going live.
And so, it's one of those things like you attract what you put out there, all right? And if you want rock stars on your team, I think it really comes down to casting the vision and hiring for attitude. Yeah, I was on a call with one of the masterminds that I'm in 4 years ago. 4 years ago this month. Maybe 5 years ago. It might have been 2017. And one of the guys was at Four Seasons in Hawaii and was sitting next to Tito Beverage. You know who Tito Beverage is? The guy who owns Tito's Vodka.
I was gonna say, I know Tito's.
His last name is Beverage, as crazy as that is, right?
No, it's not.
I swear to God.
Wow.
My camera girl's name is Cameron, right? Like it's like
Wow.
My dentist's name is White. It's kind of weird that that happens once in a while. But anyways, and he's like, dude, I'm in part of this mastermind. Will you hop on a phone call with us? And he was generous enough to say, hey, yes. And he hopped on a phone call with like 15 guys and talked for 2 hours about his story. And we peppered him with questions. And the biggest takeaway from 2 hours with Tito, who has a massive friggin' business now, was that he goes, I only hired, nobody had the skill set of distilling vodka when I was hiring them, right? We had to teach them how to do it, what to do it. So we just hired based on good attitude. And now at that time it was like 300 or 400 employees. He goes, we have 400 employees. And you walk into the office, he goes, I get chills just because of how amazing of a work environment it is. So if you hire for skills, you can train everything else. Or I'm sorry, you hire for attitude, you can train all the skills and everything else. Just make sure you're putting good people on your team. And I attracted people, I'll give you an example. My COO, went to high school with him. He was 2 years younger than me. I saw his work ethic for almost a decade outside of school, and I brought him in-house 6 years ago. I'm like, dude, he's working 2 full-time jobs, leaving an 8-hour shift to go work somewhere else for 8 hours, to then go home, sleep for 5 hours, and then go back to work. 2 full-time jobs. Dude, that's insane. I was like, what does it cost in order to get you to come onto my team? And he was like, $4,000 a month. Fucking done. Dude, here's 6 months worth, right? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so got him on board. There's a couple people who have grown with us, right? Just by being in the room with a bunch of growth-oriented people. They didn't really have the ambitions early on, but we just kind of made that part of the company culture.
You kind of opened their eyes a little bit.
Yeah, and they eat it up, man. They love it. My chief investment officer, he went to high school with me. He was a year older than me. He was my attorney for 6 or 7 years, business attorney, like not working for me. And it came to a point where he's like, dude, I can go and raise some money. And I was like, I need an in-house attorney. What is it going to take to bring an attorney in full time? Will you take less salary? Because everybody thinks like attorneys make a lot of money. And he was like, first of all, they don't make as much money as we think that they make. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they can bring a ton of value. So I was like, dude, can I bring you in? As I was in growth mode, I was like, I can afford $50,000. I'll pay you 50 G's, but I'll give you equity in every deal that I do. And his net worth has grown by multiple 7 figures because of that.
Yeah. Right?
So it's not always about the cash and the cash flow. It's about, what other value can you bring? And that's something that he never had. He was a consultant, essentially, trading his time for money, never really building up something sellable. So it allowed me to then partner up with him, bring him in-house, and dude, we've grown like a remarkable team. So he's got equity. I've given equity up to my COO. I've given equity up to my chief investment officer. I've given equity up to my contractor now. I've given equity up to my traveling asset manager. There's 5 people who I've cut into my equity, not diluted everybody, just Tim's, that ends up, actually 2 of them we dilute everybody, but 3 of them just came off of my equity personally. And because of that, it allows us to attract better talent and have a longer term mindset from everybody that comes in.